In the next few minutes, you're about to find out why I think Allen Iverson is the most overrated player in NBA history. The main way we're going to break this down is I'm going to present to you the 4 main arguments people use to prop up Allen Iverson against every other point guard in NBA history. We're going to go over those 4 main arguments and we're going to dismantle them one by one. If you're out there in the wild one day and you encounter one of these Allen Iverson apologists, you'll know how to deal with them. Let's not waste more time. Let's get into argument number 1.
100%.
Do you think you can win a championship in the time AI played? Do you think you can win a championship with AI as the #1 player on the team?
Yeah.
How?
Mainly just giving him just some better offensive weapons. You had the defense there, but you just didn't give him at least one other offensive help.
Give him the offensive help. Just give me a player who played in that time.
T-Mac?
If you think T-Mac is worse than AI, that's fine. You think AI and T-Mac on those Sixers teams beat Shaq and Kobe?
Yeah, I think they could beat them.
The man had no help. This argument infuriates me. In a way, I do understand it. The man played for so many years in Philadelphia, putting up crazy numbers, and his best teammate was what most people considered a washed Dikembe Mutombo. I get them at a certain point. LeBron wasn't able to win a chip till he left Cleveland the first time and was able to put stars around him, and then he was able to win championships. Same thing with MJ. MJ was not able to win a single championship until he got Scottie Pippen and eventually a bunch of other really good role players on his team. A good supporting cast is a necessity if you want to win a championship, no matter how good your #1 is. Even MJ proved that. So to a certain point, kind of understand them, and they kind of would have been making a valid point if we ignore what happened in Denver. Allen Iverson was traded at the age of 31 to Denver, where the man had prime Carmelo Anthony, prime J.R. Smith, prime Kenyon Martin, super stacked team to go and make a finals run. He didn't do that, even though the man had a super stacked roster. And the AI fans will sit there and say, oh, but he was old, he was past his prime. Dude played there from the ages of 31 to 34. A player that y'all always say, if you meet an AI fan, they will tell you Allen Iverson is better than Steph Curry. But if that's true, at 31, if Allen Iverson was washed, how come Steph Curry at the age of 33 was playing better than he ever had his entire life to go ahead and put the Warriors on his back and win a championship? But yet, oh no, Allen Iverson is better though. Oh, y'all just don't understand, he's better. So when he didn't have help, he didn't win a chip. When he had help, he didn't win a chip either. So let's stop this nonsense. He had help. It was just too late for him. I understand the man also did have his injuries, but even before the injuries started occurring, the man was still not playing at the level he used to play before. But factoring in the injuries, the man just simply did not take care of himself so well. In fact, if he, instead of complaining about practice, would have gone to a few more practice sessions, maybe the man would have been pretty good still into his, late into his career.
You know how when you wish someone was a little taller, a little stronger? Out of all the players I ever seen, I wish Allen Iverson was 6'6". We will be arguing he's the best player that ever played.
Argument number 2. He'd be the best player if he was taller. There's a famous quote by Kobe Bryant that says, "Thank God Allen Iverson ain't 6'5". I mean, yeah. And Kobe said it, so it has to be true. Because players have never given a bad take before, right? I mean, MJ's the greatest basketball player ever, and he's never had any bad opinions on basketball players. He's never thought this player is going to be amazing and then drafts a player and they're terrible. There's no way he's done that for like 20 years straight. There's no way. If a good player says something, it must be true, right? Right? You can do this with every player ever. If Steph Curry was 6'8", if Kyrie Irving was 7'2", if Giannis had a 3-point shot. Let's not even do that, because you can work on your shot. Let's just work on stuff you can't work on. If LeBron was 7'4", he'd be the greatest player ever. With his current skill set, yes, he would be. If you just get the player and you just make him tall, right? But it doesn't just happen. People don't just become taller out of nowhere. Allen Iverson spent his entire life playing as the smallest man on the court. Always, from the beginning, from the get-go. So when you're the smallest man on the court, you learn that you must have to adapt, and you're not going to be able to just drive in on them willy-nilly while they're defending you, because they have a height advantage. They're going to block you if you do that. So Allen Iverson understood that for him to have an advantage against bigger people, he's going to have to break their ankles. So if you get a Allen Iverson that's born and raised as a taller person who grows up to be a 6'5" player, he most likely would not have developed the same handles that the smaller version, the normal version of AI did, simply because he would have not needed to go over bigger players because he himself would have been a slightly bigger player. So you probably wouldn't even get the same Allen Iverson that we know and love. So this argument, it's one of those easy ones. It's dead. It doesn't matter if the guy was big or bigger or not. Like, we're not gonna have a fantasy argument about what if this player was taller, what if that player was good at this. Forget it. You could do that with so many players. What if Ben Simmons just wasn't in, like, what if Ben Simmons had Michael Jordan's mentality? Oh, you know, let's not do that, because we could be here all day making up stuff. No make-believe arguments. When you argue from things that happen in real life. So that argument about, oh, he'd be the best player if he was taller, there's a million ways to destroy that argument. Y'all can pick whichever one y'all want, but that argument is pointless in my opinion.
One of the most memorable players ever was that the diminutive guard carried his team to the NBA Finals in 01.
Argument number 3, and this is all reliable. When it comes to ways to defend Allen Iverson, this is all reliable right here. The fact that the man took a team that was not that good to the NBA Finals. Newsflash. Nobody in the Eastern Conference in the 2001 season was good. You know, I don't know if y'all were aware of that. Let's keep it a buck, okay? What teams did he beat that were like great to make it to the finals? Well, we can break them down, because most AI fans either never did that or purposely don't talk about it because they know it's a soft spot. In the first round of that year, it was the 2000 and 2001 8th seed Indiana Pacers. If you look at their roster from 2000 to 2001, their top 3 players was basically Jalen Rose, who, I mean, cool. He's like Hall of Very Good type of player, right? It's like saying you beat up a team that had Joe Johnson as their best player. Like, that's a pretty good player, but let's keep it a buck. Jalen Rose could have maybe been the 3rd option on a championship worthy team. So the fact that this is your prime player, that's already says enough. Their 2nd best player was a 35-year-old Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller, one of the greatest players of all time, but dude was 35. He was already washed. And then you have a really young Jermaine O'Neal, which, yes, he was a multiple-time all-star, really good, solid player, but that year he wasn't. He was still kind of bad. He was still very young. The year after that, he won Most Improved and was actually really good after the next year. But this year, he is kind of mediocre. So you have a mediocre young center, you have a 35-year-old Reggie Miller, and then you have a Jalen Rose, who, again, will be like the 3rd best option on a championship team. Not impressive, not a good team. On to the next one. 2000s and 2001 Toronto Raptors. The way y'all feel about Allen Iverson is the way y'all should have felt about Vince Carter. Man, if y'all look at his team, it's pretty funny. They had a 37-year-old Charles Oakley playing starter minutes, averaging 35 minutes a game. 37-year-old Charles freaking Oakley. Let that sink in. Kevin Willis also started a bunch of games for them, age 38. Mark Jackson, one of their other starters, age 35. Dale Curry was also on that same team, 36. It's funny because y'all say Dikembe was old and washed, and everyone I just named was older, and these were all like starters on that team. And the funny thing is, Dikembe that year made an all-star. Keep in mind, they have not faced a team with more than one all-star. Yet the 76ers, that year, Dikembe Mutombo was an all-star caliber player. So far, they've beaten 2 teams that only have one all-star, and AI's team has 2 all-stars on them, him and Dikembe. Like, my wife was asking me, like, yo, did you wash the clothes? I sent her a picture of that roster. So, I mean, again, of course they won. So far, they played a Indiana team that's not good, a very old and washed Raptors team, and then who they play in the conference finals? The 2000-2001 Milwaukee Bucks. And look, I will be honest with you, I will give Allen Iverson a compliment. He played very well, and they defeated a really good team in the Milwaukee Bucks that year. Problem is, I said at the beginning, which one of these teams was great? And that's the thing about the Bucks. They were a really solid team. They had Glenn Robinson and Ray Allen leading the way. And Ray Allen is a Hall of Fame player. But let's keep it a buck. The man had to be the 3rd or maybe even the 4th best player for him to for a team to be good enough to win the ring. This man wasn't gonna solo squad anybody. Then you had Glenn Robinson, who was a 2-time All-Star. Same kind of thing as Ray Allen. Dude went on to the Spurs and, you know, a few years later and won a championship. But dude was not the main piece for a championship winning team. Sam Cassell was also slightly older, I think like around 32, and was still averaging 18 points. really good. Again, it's a good team. It's a makings of a really solid team that could probably win a bunch of games in the regular season. They were not a great team by any means necessary. At the end of the day, the man carried a team with 2 All-Stars, him and Dikembe, past a terrible Indiana team, a terrible Toronto team, and then a Milwaukee Bucks team that had 2 All-Stars and Glenn Robinson and Ray Allen, but not a number 1 player on the team. And that's what made the team good, not great. Are we really gonna say this man's the greatest point guard of all time because he defeated 2 bad teams and 1 good team in the playoffs one time? Moving on to the next argument. Argument number 4. Have you seen Allen Iverson's stats, bro? Have you seen how many points that man scored, bro? Yeah, I seen his stats. I seen how many points he scored. I also looked at his efficiency stats. So since you're an Allen Iverson fan, you might not know what efficiency is. You might have to Google that. The man's field goal percentage was 42%. From 3, he shot 31%. This is all bad. And true shooting of .518, which if you look at 2024 and look at true shooting percentage and see where that sort of lines up, I'm going to go to players that averaged around 30 minutes. We got Josh Hart, who averaged 33 minutes and had a true shooting percentage of .52. We had Jordan Clarkson, same thing, played around 30 minutes. .52. These are slightly higher than Allen Iverson's. Jeremy Sohan, around the 30-minute mark, .51. Played around, so he'd be around Jeremy Sohan, Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson's level of efficiency in today's game. Not really an efficient player at all. And a lot of people be like, well, that was the dead ball era. It was hard to be efficient. And that's true. I'm just presenting the facts, the numbers, the things that occurred. What a lot of people like to do is say, well, in today's game, dude would have been much more efficient. We don't know that. You're just jumping to a conclusion. It's like when Kendrick Perkins said, yeah, he'll score 43 points a game. Oh, yeah, for sure. A guy who's like slightly below 6 feet and can't even shoot threes efficiently is not going to average 40-something points a game. Oh, and by the way, don't look at those playmaking numbers either. The man averaged 6 assists and almost 4 turnovers a game. Like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say something really blasphemous. When it comes to a heliocentric style of play that we see a lot in today's game, which means the offense revolves around one player, Allen Iverson, which, I mean, they kind of did something similar with Allen Iverson. He ran that entire offense. But dude, he would not hold a candle to like James Harden, prime James Harden or prime Luka Doncic, because the fact that they are so much better playmakers than he was, on top of the fact that they score around the same amount that he does, but a lot more efficient as well. They kind of wash him by a lot, but people don't like having that conversation because James Harden likes to choke in the playoffs. But it's fine. We'll move on. At the end of the day, it kind of pisses me off because Allen Iverson is truly one of the greatest players to ever live. Dude wrote the Bible on handles, and he should be celebrated as one of the greatest players, not also for everything he brought to the game on the court, but off the court as well. Dude is an icon, and I don't have an issue with people just saying and praising him. My issue is he has a lot of fans, and the reason he has a lot of fans, it's something that I call, it's a term that I've coined, the aesthetic surplus. And what that is when a player plays an aesthetically pleasing form of basketball, somebody like an Allen Iverson, a Steph Curry, a Kyrie Irving, they tend to occasionally be overhyped by their fan bases a lot. It's where the whole bag talk comes from. Players that have really deep bags tend to get overhyped sometimes. It happens. And again though, I don't mind you praising Allen Iverson and him being your favorite player, but it's when you start bringing down other players to prop him up. That's when I got an issue, and that's when everybody's gonna start scrutinizing your opinions on Allen Iverson. If you just sit here and say, yo, Allen Iverson was great, he was amazing, it's like, okay, yeah, for sure. Go off, King. Oh yeah, he was better than like, Kyrie and Curry and Harden and he's much better than Luka, and he's much better than, you start saying stuff like that, it's like, hold up there, we gonna have to analyze what you're saying right now. And when you start analyzing and breaking it down, this video went over their 4 main arguments, and I just kind of like broke down all 4 of these arguments to show you that they don't really have any grounds to stand on. The man is not the greatest point guard to ever live. He is not a top 5 point guard to ever live, ever. He is not even a top 5 point guard that ever lived. The man is still, again, one of the greatest players to ever live. He's still amazing, but stop overhyping the man. Leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Peace.